Hey friends, this is Bailey. Welcome to the Bailey Grind, where we talk about books, esoterica, mythology, writing. Today I wanted to talk about another life-changing book. That's right. I've read a couple life-changing books this year, which is really, really amazing. Such a amazing, let's use another word, Bailey. Such an enriching experience, and it's so transformative. I'm a sucker for a tragedy. I wish I wasn't, but I am. I love a good tragedy. And there's something about a realistic ending that makes a book so much more transformative for me. I kind of wish that Jane Austen's Persuasion, sorry, spoiler alert if you've not read Jane Austen's Persuasion, you've had a couple centuries to do so. 250 to be almost exact. Is almost exact a thing? Anyways, this is also a reason why history is so gosh dang important. So important. So let's start from stage one. I don't know yet if I'm writing a biography combining two women, Hoosier women here in Indiana, or if they're getting separate biographies. And I'm also writing a fictional novel about one of them, and I'm also working on my memoir. So those are the things that I'm working on throughout probably the next 5 or more years. And these two women were largely living in, why did I say largely? These two women were living in the Victorian era, and then one of them lived through Edwardian progressive depression era, but her formative years were Victorian. Ophelia wants to say something. And, I'm a Renaissance medieval girly. So medieval won my heart when I was younger. I go to the Renaissance Fair once a year in Ohio. Listen, permanent buildings, it's amazing. Don't knock it till you try it. And while I'm aware that the Renaissance Festival isn't really historic, I've researched the Renaissance, particularly Italian Renaissance, a lot. What I've never researched was the Gilded Age and late Victorian. Just never interested me. And so now I'm having to really immerse myself in that world, and I'm coming up with a reading list for you all, because I'm reading books that were actually in these women's libraries and what was being talked about at the time, because these women have archives, and so they have newspaper clippings where it talks about books, or they were friends, they were in art circles, so they were friends with other novelists and famous writers, and so of course they probably read their work, and I'm overwhelmed, but it's a good overwhelm. Anyways, the reason why you're here is to hear about this, to hear about this life-changing book. And it's, dun dun dun, Edith Wharton's House of Mirth. I have read Edith Wharton Summer, and I think I maybe gave it 1 or 2 stars. But reason being is that history matters when you're reading literature. History really matters. And it matters because it just provides so much context. It places the book. It really, you get to understand the social commentary. And I know that this is like a, well, duh kind of thing. We understand the Brontes or Jane Austen. We understand their genius so much because we understand that time period. But I don't necessarily see many people talking about the turn of the 20th century American time period, at least in my bubbles. And so much was happening, you know? Like, we have the Gilded Age TV show, sure, and it's based on a lot of these things, but, you know, when I'm researching one of these ladies, she went to Pratt Institute in New York, and she was there from 1903 to 1905. Well, the train system, the subway system, sorry, I'm from Chicago, so we call it the train, or the L. Anyways, that didn't open up until like 1903, I believe. Can you imagine how much that changed everything? You could live outside of the immediate like city center and take the train in to work. It's space. I mean, just, can you fathom that? How much a train system or subway system within a huge metropolitan city changed things. And then, you know, they're living through the age of electricity. Like, they're being introduced to electricity. And I just don't see many novels being recommended from that era. I think it's easier probably to focus on British novels, but there's a ton of American. And we're talking like, obviously, pre-F. Scott Fitzgerald. Because once we get to F. Scott Fitzgerald, it gets easier. Not necessarily with female writers. It definitely gets easier with male writers. But what Edith Wharton was doing, God, I'm going off on all these tangents. This is the marking of a great book, is when your brain just goes full throttle. So what Edith Wharton was doing during her time, because she was also a wealthy, elite New York woman, she was chronicling a society that had never been chronicled before. Like, there's a historian that says that Edith Wharton was one of the greatest chroniclers. And you do have to wonder sometimes, like, writing from your viewpoint within your society and really honing in on attire and etiquette and all of these things that we kind of don't really do. Really great. Okay, so what is the House of Mirth about? So the House of Mirth is about a woman named Lily Bart. And Lily Bart was born to okay parents. Like, they weren't poor and they weren't super wealthy, but they did squander all of their wealth. And then they died. Great. Her mom was kind of like a stuck-up brat anyways, so good riddance. But then she's taken in as a teenager by her aunt, who is wealthy, and she's in the New York society. She's wealthy. She's wealthy. She's not part of, I don't think she's part of like the 400, if you know what the 400 are, but, and Lily Bart is raised to be an object of desire. She has to marry rich or else she won't survive. And so she's kind of thrown into this society and she has to navigate it. And she's beautiful. She's stunning. Everyone thinks so. And actually, Gillian Anderson plays Lily Bart, and that was like a great choice. I'm a huge fan. In the movie. Sorry. My brain's all over the place because I just love this book so much. Okay, so anyways, men make advances on her. Like, they come to Lily Bart and they're professing how beautiful she is and yada yada, but she knows that she's going to end up hating them. So she can't necessarily marry any of them because they all suck. You know, none of them can really like hold up a conversation with her that's intriguing, and they're all just, she kind of despises the society in which they belong to, but she has to be there. So another frame of reference for you, if you want to pick this book up, is that it was unladylike for a woman to make money. And honestly, you weren't really making money unless you were extremely poor, and then you were working in workhouses until you basically died from whatever the job was. Arsenic in the paint, or what were those girls called in the Midwest? Radium girls. So you couldn't really make money as a woman unless you're a prostitute, and then you're really not going to be in society. So she has to borrow money from multiple people, and you kind of start to watch her unraveling as she's trying to keep up with the society. Someone in a documentary, because I really just went on a deep dive after this, someone in a documentary, sorry, I'm adjusting because the chihuahua, said that reading this book is like watching a pack of wolves circle around like a stoic deer and tear it limb from limb while it just like stares into space. And that's exactly what this novel is about. So without giving you more information, I'll just tell you, like, it's not uplifting. It's not uplifting. However, why I said that it changed my life is because I was also doing the artist way, which I'll update you on. I'm no longer doing it, but we'll get to that at some point. And I was really having to sit with, who am I? Who am I without the abusive ex, his voice in my head? Who am I without, I guess this directly ties into the book. Who am I if I'm not making myself into an object of desire? And we think we're so progressed, you know. We think women have it all now. Sometimes I wonder if we have less because we now have to be objects of desire and also pursue a career and be all of these things, and I just don't, I'm crumbling under it. But what this book made me realize is that, like Lily Bart, like these people in this society, I was living by so many shoulds. And it's daily. So it's, I should put on makeup. I should wear this top because it's professional. I should keep my hair down because it's professional. Here, I should settle down. You know, I should settle down and get married because I'm almost 34 and I want a family. I shouldn't settle down. I should be happy with being single and not having a family. I should try and find a better paying job. I should apply for food assistance. I should, here, let's get into food. I should buy local and organic. I should, it's just non-stop. And I wonder how many of you have just sat and thought about all the shoulds. Like when you're going about your day, and I mean, even brushing teeth, right? You should brush your teeth. Now, I'm not saying to stop brushing your teeth, but everything is a should. And one of the things that I found when looking up after reading this book, after finishing it, I looked up what other people thought of the novel, and so many people hate Lily Bart, the main character. I'm a sucker for an unlikable character because that's a whole other tangent I could get into about, whatever. I love a good unlikable character. But they call her naive and ignorant and stuck up and all these things, but Lily Bart is the most true out of anybody in the society. She refuses to get married because just for money. Like, she just refuses, even though it could be her ruin. And when people are betraying her, she has every right and material to blackmail them, to take them down along with her. And she remains true. She doesn't operate from shoulds. At least in that society. Of course, today we could look at her and say she did in analyzing the novel, because she did figure out how to become an object of desire, and she went to functions because she had to, and she had to buy dresses. Sure, totally by today's standards, but not then. And that's why context really matters. That's why history really matters. So every day now, and it's been maybe a month, I have really been stopping myself. Not all the way, For example, I've been going line dancing once a week, and it's been amazing. It's so healing. I think there's so much untapped somatic therapy, like expression and healing, that comes from being able to stomp and take up space on a dance floor. And while I'm loving it, sometimes I don't want to go. And I hear, but you should. You'll be happier afterwards. You should get out. And even like Saturday, there was a big line dancing event, and I put on makeup, I put on a nice dress, and I was getting ready to walk out of the house, and I thought, I'm operating from shoulds right now, when all I want to do is lay in bed and read. So anyways, I'm not a finished human. This is a work in progress. But man, The House of Mirth is amazing. I also read The Age of Innocence, which is going to be a whole other video because it's completely different. And I had a completely different experience. One thing I'll also say about House of Mirth is it's just the prose is beautiful. And also being inside Lily Bart's mind, I loved it there. I really liked it there. She reminds me, if you've read The Bell Jar, she reminds me of a Gilded Age Esther Greenwood. So if you didn't like The Bell Jar, you're not going to like House of Mirth, probably. Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. Absolutely 100% so much like Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. Yeah, that's all I want to say for now. I hope you all are well. If you have read any of Edith Wharton, I would love to know which ones were your favorite. I think I'm going to reread Summer now that I understand the historical context for Edith Wharton. But I also really she has 2 autobiographies. Sorry, my dog just hit the microphone. Anyways, recommendations, always put them down below. Love them. My bank account doesn't, but it is what it is. Good to see you all. See you soon.